breaking news. The Houston Rockets have hired former Celtics head coach Ime Udoka as their next head coach. So Udoka comes over from the Celtics. He did not coach at all this past season because he was suspended for the workplace misconduct allegations that came out after the Celtics run to the finals a season ago. Celtics gave him permission to seek other opportunities. He nearly got the Brooklyn Nets head coaching job when they fired Steve Nash earlier this season. Ultimately, it's the Rockets who hire Ime Udoka and bring themselves a head coach who's one of the most qualified candidates they could have hired that was available.
According to Woj, the Rockets probed the circumstances around Udoka's Celtics departure with the team and league office. So the Rockets reportedly did their due diligence, found out whatever they were looking for in regards to the off-the-court issues with Ime Udoka, but it was just a matter of time before this dude was going to get another opportunity to be a head coach, and he is a major, major upgrade over Stephen Silas. This is one of the biggest fish that was out there from a head coaching perspective. This guy has only been a head coach in the NBA for 1 year, but it was just about as successful as a debut year as you could have, leading the Celtics to an NBA Finals appearance a couple of seasons ago. He's got plenty of experience as an assistant coach, including nearly a decade in San Antonio under Greg Popovich, who's the best NBA coach of this generation. This guy is incredibly qualified, and his record as a head coach is very, very good, although it's a relatively small sample size. This feels like a big-time get for the Rockets, and you go from somebody who was incredibly unproven when he got the gig in Stephen Silas to a guy who's been there, done that, who has some skins on the wall as a head coach, who can relate to players, who has shown that he can develop some talent as well. There's a lot to like with the Ime Udoka hire.
You would think that all the mistakes of that nature would be in his past as well. It's one thing to make that mistake once, lose your job, and lose a very, very good job like the one that he had with the Boston Celtics. You'd think that that's probably not going to be a mistake that he makes again as a head coach of a basketball organization. And you need something proven. You got something proven if you're the Rockets, and this feels like the type of guy that will command and demand some respect from whoever's left on this team. Because I don't know that for sure we can say that there is the roster that they have now is going to contain some of those key pieces. They're for sure going to be on this team. You hear the rumors about the Rockets being involved in trades of some players on some other teams that maybe are unhappy with their situation or things of that nature. So some of those young guys might be out of there in favor of guys, and maybe a guy or two that Udoka knows from having coached them in recent years. So it's a very nice hire.
Start the Jalen Brown to the Rockets rumors right now.
They've already started.
Now they could be put into
overdrive,
hyperspeed.
Yeah, there you go.
Is that what they did in Star Wars?
Lights. I don't know. You're the Star Wars fan. What are you asking me for?
Andrew's at light speed.
I think so.
Well, either way, Jalen Brown could accelerate the rumors of him coming to Houston. There's no doubt. Look, Ime Udoka was the best available coach on the market, either him or Nick Nurse, and it kind of felt like Udoka was going to go to Toronto. That was like the rumblings when they got rid of Nick Nurse. So the fact that the Rockets were able to get him kind of speaks volumes about the job they did on convincing Udoka this is the right job, because there were a lot of teams that would love to hire Ime Udoka as their head coach. No one was going to maybe do it this past year, so close to the scandal in Boston, but this guy was going to coach again. And for the Rockets to bring him in, to go from Ime Udoka to go from Stephen Silas to Ime Udoka, if you're a Rockets fan, you got to be pumped.
I have to imagine he would have been the top candidate for any team that's unhappy with their coach after a playoff exit. They get rid of a coach, and he would have been the guy that teams who were in the playoffs who fired their coach because they didn't like their playoff results, he'd have been the guy everybody chases. So the timeline was important here as well, because 3 days ago it was Udoka's the target for the Raptors. So they had the conversation with them, or that they go down that path or think about it that way, and the Rockets probably looked around and were like, hey, let's make sure this doesn't happen, and let's make sure that we only fight one team and not 3-4 teams and some teams with some more successful situations. Because from Udoka's standpoint, he's got to say yes too, because he knows he's going to be in high demand. Well, there's two teams available right now that wanted to talk to him. He picks one of those teams, as opposed to 3-4 weeks from now, there's 4 or 5 teams maybe that want to talk to him, and they got better situations than the one you've got. Make it happen. It's an accelerated process. I'd speculated maybe it'd take a month. The coaching hires last year kind of took a little bit more than a month for some of the teams that changed over their guys, maybe a little bit closer to the draft lottery, but you make it happen. I'm sure this came with a very nice contract for Udoka as well, so good job by the Fertittas to write the big contract to make it happen.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. Look, it's better to be right than to be first, but if you can be right and first, that's living large right there. And there was massive risk to waiting on this process, whether it was Udoka or Nick Nurse that you were really coveting. More and more jobs were going to open up as the offseason started to pick up in the NBA. And like you said, Cody, more and more teams are going to be reaching out to these guys to try to woo them and make them want to take their job versus going somewhere else. So that's why the Rockets had to have a little bit of pep in their step to make this thing happen while there were only 2 vacancies across the NBA. And they get a guy who is really likable. I mean, obviously the off-the-court stuff, say what you will, but this dude was a player who played in the NBA, had a lot of success there. Once again, an assistant coach for a long time for a couple of really, really talented head coaches, including Greg Popovich. There's a lot to like about what Ime Udoka brings to the table. And you talk about Jalen Brown, and the James Harden rumors are picking up again, too, because those 2 guys at a strip club together, watch out. My goodness.
Is Jalen Brown known to be a strip club guy?
James Harden.
No, James Harden is, but is Jalen Brown known to be one too?
Did I not say James Harden? Did I say Jalen Brown twice?
I think he's talking about Ime Udoka and Harden.
Oh, you're saying Harden and Udoka will go to the strip club together?
Yes.
Well, maybe Jalen Brown would like to join them. Who knows?
That's fine.
Okay, if the offseason's James Harden, Jalen Brown, and Ime Udoka all go to the strip club together, then all right, sign me up.
Also, the word we were looking for was hyperspace.
Okay.
So there you go. So start the Jalen Brown to the Rockets rumors. Start him now and put him in hyperspace after Ime Udoka, if you're just tuning in, is going to be named the next Rockets head coach.
Man, look, some reasons for excitement going into this offseason with all the cap space that you have, obviously the chance to land another top pick in the NBA draft, but this offseason just got way more exciting because now you know that you've got a good leader and a guy, once again, who has proven that he can develop talent both as an assistant coach and as a head coach now running the show. And this is a guy who's going to help, I think, in free agency, too. Like with Steven Silas, no one really wanted to play with Steven Silas. I mean, obviously his messaging grew stale and it felt like a lot of the locker room kind of gave up on him as his tenure continued to progress. But he didn't have the skins on the wall around the league to where it's like, oh, if I'm a big-name free agent, I know that guy is going to develop me. I know he's going to get the most out of me. I know he's going to make our team competitive. And Silas was winning 25% of his games as a head coach. Ime Udoka, once again, just 1 year as an NBA head coach, but he went to the freaking finals. Like everyone's goal who plays in the NBA is to have success and to try to compete for championships. Udoka's a guy that a lot of players, I think, are going to want to play for. So now it feels more like, instead of just saying, hey, the Rockets have a bunch of money, but who's going to want to play here? Now, look, you combine the city, you combine the young talent, and you've got Ime Udoka as your head coach. This destination just became a lot more of a destination for potential free agents this offseason who might want to come here and play ball. So this type of hire could expedite the Rockets' rebuild, which is a good thing because they've been stuck in the mud for too damn long.
I also wonder, too, from a young guy standpoint, because he shows up in Boston, a lot of that talent was on its way to already developed by the time he gets to Boston and then he takes over as the head coach of the Celtics. But I wonder if just the guys he's been around, you talk about a stint in Philadelphia, obviously in Brooklyn, and then the time in Boston, there's a lot of, hey, I've been around stars. I've been around big-time players. This is how they act, guys. Like, I'm going to tell you, and, it's going to be a really good resume standpoint to be like, hey, I coached Joel Embiid. He's one of the best players in basketball. Mm-hmm. This is what you have to do. I coach those guys in Boston. They're some of the best players in basketball. This is what you have to do. Like, imparting on those young guys. And when they make a mistake, hey, mistake doesn't define you. Or a mistake doesn't define you. Look at me. I lost the job as the Celtics head coach, and now I'm a head coach again. It doesn't define you, but it's a long road back. So let's avoid those mistakes, fellas.
So he coached Kawhi, Embiid, KD, James Harden, and Kyrie Irving. Rockets starting 5 next year. Simple as that.
He's coached stars. That matters. He's also coached young players in his career, and young players have gotten better under his watch, whether he's been an assistant or what he did last year with the Celtics. They were a 500 team.
Bingo.
And he made a bunch of changes, got them to start playing defense, got them to change their play style, got Jalen Brown and Jason Tatum to play better together, which was an issue the last couple of years under Brad Stevens. This guy can win. This guy could coach young players. I mean, I hate to say if you could ignore the off-the-court stuff, but That's kind of what I'm saying here. If you look past that, and this guy eventually was going to work again, you got arguably the best guy on the market to be a head coach. And if you're the Rockets going from Steven Silas to him, I mean, it's night and day.
I was worried about a crappy hire with this organization, with Rafael Stone and some of the turmoil and stuff they've been through. I wasn't sure they could land the big fish, and they landed among the biggest fishes. I wasn't in love with the Nick Nurse idea. Things fell apart in Toronto. I didn't like how that finished up. So Udoka was definitely one of the impressive candidates. They end up with him. It's a great job by the Rockets, and didn't see this coming, didn't expect this, but certainly on their way to relevancy again, you would hope.
Relevancy for the Rockets. A great hire, Ime Udoka, about to be named the next head coach.